With the session over, it's time to look closer at lawmakers and what they achieved. Earlier this session, we told you about a bipartisan push for education reforms led by freshman House Democrat James Talarico. Now it's time to follow up with the representative. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
We will get to education, but
Sure.
First I wanted to ask you a little bit about several of your colleagues and you in the legislature made news this week when you signed a letter to the Trump administration opposing proposed tariffs to Mexico. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was proud to join 55 of my fellow colleagues on both sides of the political aisle signing a letter to President Trump asking him to reconsider these tariffs on Mexican imports to Texas. Because, you know, as the 10th largest economy in the world, Mexico is our state's largest trading partner, and we rely on them to, you know, continue to grow our economy and support Texas business and Texas workers. And so these tariffs and the retaliatory tariffs that will result on Texas exports is estimated to cost our state's GDP about $12 billion and lead to about 117,000 jobs lost. So if President Trump wants to address our broken immigration system, he should do so with Congress through a comprehensive immigration reform package, not by imposing a Trump tax on Texas workers and Texas businesses.
Do you think this will make a difference?
I hope so. You know, I hopefully the White House will listen to local officials at the state level who know how best to grow the Texas economy and have done so over the past couple of decades. And we know from everyone across the state on both sides of the aisle that this is not the way to stay competitive in a globally interdependent economy.
Now, you told us about your whole student agenda a few months back. You had a lot of goals, and you know, most of them didn't get through. But what did you kind of learn in the process, and what did get through?
Yeah, so you know, it was an ambitious package, and a lot of people were surprised that a freshman would introduce such kind of big policy goals. And I was really proud of the fact that our whole student agenda changed the education conversation at the Capitol, and really asked fundamental questions about how our schools should be designed to serve our students in a more holistic fashion. Two of the bills in their complete form reached the governor's desk, which we're really excited about, and then a bunch of other bills in the package got amended onto other bills, which is a lot of times how policy gets made at the state capitol. So I feel really good about where we ended up with the agenda, and most importantly, I'm glad that we changed the conversation and made folks really think about how our schools are serving our students.
Now, you're a former teacher and you served on the Public Education Committee this session. Lawmakers have been trying to fix school finance, that system, for a long time. What made it work this time?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, we had tremendous leadership in the House of Representatives under our new Speaker, Dennis Bonnen. He appointed me to the Public Education Committee, although we're in different parties, but he wanted practitioners and education policy experts at the table when we're discussing these issues. And because of my history in the classroom as a teacher and as an education nonprofit leader, he really valued my insight, which I appreciate, even though I'm a freshman and I belong to a different party. I'll also, you know, I think because we had a budget surplus, that always makes things a little easier at the state capitol and kind of greases the wheels a little bit. And then, you know, in the last election, we saw voters really stand up for public education and vote as kind of single issue voters on school finance reform on both sides of the aisle. And I think that made a huge impact. Having a purple state, not blue and not red, is good for policymaking and good for government, because it means every legislator, every lawmaker feels like they don't, you know, they have to be accountable to voters and they can't take their seat for granted. And that keeps everybody on their toes, and I think leads to better outcomes for the people of Texas.
Was there anything left out of House Bill 3 that you would have liked to have seen?
Sure. I mean, it's a massive bill. I was proud to help shape it from the ground up as a member of the committee. And as you go through this process, you have to compromise with folks to get something like this done, especially something that's historic and this transformative. So there are a ton of things that, you know, I'm super excited about in the bill. $11.6 billion being invested into our system, $5.1 billion of that for property tax relief for our homeowners and our businesses, and then $6.5 going directly to districts and classrooms to fund things like full-day pre-K for the first time in Texas history. You know, these are historic reforms. You know, however, I think there are things to be concerned about. Primarily, how we're going to pay for this in future biennia. I think there was concern from folks across the political spectrum that there were not enough sustainable revenue streams to maintain this significant investment. And so we're worried that if good economic times don't last forever, that we're going to have to come back and kind of undermine the promises that we've made this session. So that's the thing I think we'll look at in the interim and next session, is how to make sure we're sustaining this investment over the long term for our students.
What other legislation are you proud of that you worked on this session?
Yeah, I mean, obviously school finance reform is the biggest thing we worked on, but our office was really proud to pass a lot of local bills that were going to help my district in Southeast Williamson County, bills that are going to continue to spur economic growth in places like Hutto and Round Rock. Those local bills may not get a lot of attention, but they're really important to our community back home.
Now that the session is over, a lot of lawmakers are switching to campaign mode.
Sure.
What's the message that you're trying to send to the people in your district?
Yeah, it's the same message we ran on, which is putting people over politics, which I think is exactly what we did this session by partnering with our Republican colleagues to solve problems and get things done. It's not always the most exciting and the most partisan of approaches, but I think it's the best way to create good public policy that's going to serve the people of Texas. So, helping our local property taxpayers, helping our students and our teachers, that's what we're going to take back to the voters.
Now, in the spirit of getting to know your constituents and seeing what their issues really are, you've been walking across your district this session. But I heard a funny story.
Sure.
You know the one I'm talking about. An electric fence and a donkey. What happened there?
So, as part of our effort to be accountable to our constituents, I walked the entire length of my district from Taylor, Texas to Round Rock, Texas. That's 25 miles. And we walked the entire thing in one day, which is about a 10-hour thing. And we live streamed the entire thing on Facebook while hosting 3 town halls in each of the 3 major cities in our district. And the idea was to make sure that folks could approach me either virtually on the live stream or at a town hall or along the walk. And it was an incredible event. However, it's pretty unpredictable when you've got that long of a walk and you're kind of running into all kinds of things. And at one point when I walked into the city of Hutto, I saw these cute donkeys behind a small fence, and so decided to go up and pet one of the donkeys. Didn't realize it was an electric fence, and I leaned up against it and got quite the shock. And the whole thing was live streamed, and so there was no way to to cover it up or to spin it, and so I just had to kind of make a joke of it. But I think that's important. So many politicians have a filter, and their staff keeps them from embarrassing things or tough questions, and that's not the kind of policymaker I want to be. I want to be transparent and accountable and accessible to the people I represent, even if that means them watching me get shocked on a live stream.
Well, we're glad that you're okay and you're here to tell that story.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on a successful session, and we will see what you get up to in the next year and a half before it's all back to the Capitol. I'm assuming that you're already thinking about what's next.
Of course. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.